celebrating the power of possibility.
There were 74 people in the entire country that received a pardon from President Trump, and I was one of them.
His rap sheet is clean now, but his tears are dirty.
When I got the news, I bawled like a baby. 10 minutes of that dirty cry.
Wait until you hear the rest of the story with Josh Smith, next on Anything is Possible. Welcome to Anything is Possible. This is part 2 of my interview with Josh Smith. Now, this is a new Josh Smith. Like that Josh Smith was fantastic, but we got the upgrade. So welcome back. So we're talking about carrying the weight of being a felon, right? So you went to prison, you get out of prison, you start a business, you grow the business, you sell the business for more money than you could have ever made as a drug dealer, basically, and make it out the other side of it. But you were carrying this weight of being a felon, and you just went public with your story a few years ago. Mm-hmm. You kept the tag tucked for a long time.
It was actually your interview that pulled it out on the last Anything's Possible.
Really?
That was actually the first time that I'd released it public, and you pulled and asked a question, and I'm going, and I think if you remember, you were surprised, and then it began to talk about it, and I'm going, and then even after I got home, we're like, did we just do that?
What did I just do?
Did I just do that? This is
what did I ask you? How did I pick up on it?
I don't remember, but I think you did something, and I was like, well, I was in prison, and I think you were like,
Time
tell
out.
me more.
How do you make it out of that life, and did your life ever take any wrong turns?
Well, it did. I was in jail the first time when I was 16 years old, and then ended up getting in trouble again at 20 years old. And that was kind of that determining, that wake up time for me of kind of just, all right, what's going on? Is this what life is?
What happened after that interview? What kind of response did you get?
It's not the responses you get that you worry about. It's the ones that never call you. But there were several that called. Several business people, business leaders are like, hey, wow, I didn't know that about you, and they were supportive. And then there was others you could tell as I was around different places, the looks did change. I mean, it does affect people. I mean, when people hear those things, it's in their mind that you should judge based on past.
And I bet you know that energy too, don't you?
You know it. You know it.
You're not a felon anymore.
I'm not.
You got pardoned.
I did. President Trump, let me tell you, I got pardoned, I hit the lottery. There were 74 people in the entire country that received a pardon from President Trump, and I was one of them. And
how did it happen? Why? Why you? How'd you get picked? How'd you even get in the queue?
Since I sold my company, I was really came public with my story. Then I didn't care. You couldn't hurt my employees. You couldn't hurt, I was hiring formerly incarcerated. I was, mentoring people. That was a part I never let the news into. They've asked for interviews. I kept it out because I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to hurt those people. Well, then, as soon as I sold my company, I was free. So I was able to talk about it, obviously Governor's Task Force, several other things. And so then I was being invited to speak all across the country. There's not many people that make it out. There's not, when people know my story, they're like, well, hold on just a second. Surely you had a family with money. Surely there was maybe you just did a little tax fraud thing. No, I was a drug dealing punk, no education, running the streets. If you remember, I had 10 felonies by the time I was 16. So that's the life that I lived. So now, I speak all over and talk. I was also a large employer, so you've got employer symposiums. And there was a group, I spoke at the ACU, the CPAC, their first ever in prison. And then people just got to know me, and there were some that said, hey, you know what, about a month ago or 2 months before the president was gone, hey, we want to put you on a list of other names of people that we feel like are deserving of pardons. And the next thing you know, momentum just built, and they said, if you have any letters to write, I asked for 4 letters. and everybody wrote those letters, and the governor was one of them, and then it was a trust game from there. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, and then you just tell yourself, "There's no way it's going to happen." I mean, it's literally the lottery. And then I got the call.
I was about to say to you, do you know how amazing this is?
No, it's.
But you do know how amazing this is.
I probably know even more than you.
I would imagine that.
Just because I know how many felons are out there. I know how many people are out there. I mean, I know hundreds of deserving people that I know, right now. But there's hundreds of thousands that have carried this and will carry this for the rest of their life. And today at 46, now I can vote. I've never voted in an election. I can carry a firearm. First thing I did, very first day, was went with my 28-year-old son and picked up my other two boys and went to a gun range. Never been able to do that. My kids have always been into hunting and everything. I've never been able to go one time with my 28-year-old. There's freedoms and rights that I have now that are restored that most people just take for granted. I mean, most people just, they just don't understand what that's lost. But for me, it's a weight that's been heavy. I mean, in business, I've done contracts at the labs, but I've never been able to step foot out there. I always have to send others that can pass background checks. Nobody ever knew. I just always knew I can't do that. So not just, there's so many other things, okay? So I told you I opened up locations in other places. I couldn't go and rent apartments there. I had to send other employees to sign things. I had to do that. Again, most people never knew. I was able to keep it under, but there's so many things behind the scenes that I had to worry about. Contractor's license in our state. Okay? I had to go through a whole rigmarole to get that. Interviews and conversations. And it's not just as easy as filing a piece of paper. There's so many things that people don't understand. A real estate license. I own millions of dollars of real estate. I was turned down for a real estate license years ago. I could probably get it now, even before the part, but these are all collateral consequences. They say there's 48,000 collateral consequences to being a felon. And most people just don't know.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about when you got the word that you were pardoned. Mm-hmm. You're watching Anything is Possible. This is Josh Smith. More in a moment.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
The first thing that hit me, and I mean, when I got the news, I bawled like a baby. I mean, 10 minutes of that dirty cry.
You were already successful. I mean, in terms of financially successful and business success. So obviously you could do all of this without a pardon. You could accomplish all of this without that. So somebody might go, well, what's the big deal? You grabbed the brass ring. You got it without this. Why was this so important?
The first thing that hit me, and I mean, when I got the news, I bawled like a baby. I mean, 10 minutes of that dirty cry, where you can't even talk if you want to.
What's a dirty cry?
Dirty cry is that one where you can't even,
Snot
you can't talk if, oh yeah. I mean, you couldn't talk, you're trying to grab your breath and you're trying to talk and you just can't even talk. And, I knew then what hit me the most about it. And it really was my 28-year-old son, because I just feel like he's been robbed all these years of his passion with guns and hunting and all that. And so for me, that was the first thing that hit me, right? My family now, who's seen all this, that from the president is almost like a stamp of it's come full circle. I mean, it's paid. I mean, I've done it. It's all the way around, and now it's 100% done.
I think about the spiritual metaphor, right? So you were pardoned in prison when you accepted
Absolutely.
Christ, and when you accepted what he did for you on the cross. That is a full and complete atoning sacrifice for all you did, all you do, and all you'll ever do, right? You're covered. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that pardon is that when the Father looks at you, he doesn't see the stains. You are literally covered in the righteousness of Christ if you are a Christian believer, if that's your faith. So you were pardoned in prison, right? That's what pardon is. Pardon is not just, okay, let's move on from what you did. Pardon means there's no record. Nobody can refer to a criminal record anymore. Am I correct about what pardon is?
Yeah, and in our government, it's not as good as what the Bible references. It's still, I mean, you can still see it, but it wipes away all the consequences. So the stain, you can see it, but there's zero consequences. There's no consequences for your action.
Do you realize how powerful that is? That a guy like you, like, why you?
Yeah.
This has to be a God thing. I mean, if we looked at your story as a movie, which I'm trying to think who I would have play you in the movie version of your life. Let's just go with George Clooney just for now. Okay. But in the movie version of your life, do you understand the power of God's grace in your life? This, excuse my grammar, this ain't you.
Yeah.
You didn't do this.
No doubt about it. You know, I can tell you why. I mean, it's not because of me. It's not because I'm better than somebody or I've done all the right things or made all the right decisions, because that's not true. Some people like to say that. Some people like to go, man, you deserve it and all that stuff. And I just tell them, you have no idea. It's easy for you to say, you're not in this brain. You've not committed all the things that I've done. What I've always tried to do, though, is be the finger pointing to Him as it happens. When I got that news, after the dirty cry and my conversation with the person that told me, and my wife and I taking a few minutes with kids and stuff, and I got right down on my knees. Was in a hotel room when I got the news, and got on my knees, and I just said, God, how can I use this to bring glory to you? Because I know it's not about me. I've known that for a long time. And there's so many times I'd have turned left. God said, no, you need to turn right. There's only times that I still turned left, and He still covered it up. And so now, how can I, all the things that I've been doing anyways on the field, I was going to do anyways without a pardon or any of those things. Now I just get to continue to do those, and the voice just gets louder. It gets louder. More people want to interview you. More people want to talk to you. All those things. And so hopefully I can continue being that finger pointing to Him.
I'm just imagining you hugging your son, and I bet you he cried like you got the whole family dirty crying.
Yeah. It's, like you said, it's almost a weight. Like I said, it doesn't hold me back from anything other than, again, the firearms with him and the voting, but it's just a weight you work around for a long time. And for that to be gone, it lifted off the family. It wasn't just me.
Right.
Everybody has to ride with that.
So given where you've been, one of the things that happens to us when we experience things, folks who have open heart surgery have a compassion for people who are about to have open heart surgery. People who have been incarcerated, they see people who are incarcerated differently. Mm-hmm. When you've been there, it's a whole different thing.
Totally.
And when you described to me fourth purpose, you said prisons try to accomplish three things. But we started having this conversation about transformation, because your story is a story of transformation. Like I said, it's one thing to get out, get a house, a car, a job, go on with your life. It's another thing to go, wait a minute, I'm going to leverage what has happened to me to bring life and light to someone else and to bring glory to God through it. What is fourth purpose? What is the fourth purpose, and how did you land on that?
They say there's four purposes of prison, the fourth one being rehabilitation. And we looked at that and talked about that, and I just said, to rehabilitate something means it was once broken, and then it was fixed, then it broke, and then you fix it again. Well, that wasn't my case. I was broken. I was broken from early on, and so what we did is we just turned that word of the fourth purpose of incarceration. We just said it's transformation, And so in this foundation, we put millions of dollars in it, and it has one sole purpose: to make prison a place of transformation, to give others the same opportunity that I had when I went through. You see, if I'd have been to a different prison, the result would have been different. If I wasn't with these white-collar people, if I wasn't with these different things, it would have looked, my life would be totally different, but for the place that I went to prison. And so how do we give that opportunity to so many more? How do we change the lives of others as they come through that situation? And so that's what we look to do. How do we invest in them?
How do you do it?
Well, you hire great people, you get good people around the table, and you sit there and say, all right, how do we work on this? And we're already coming up with some phenomenal ideas. We've been able to make a huge impact this year just investing in with COVID of last year and those things. It's just, we've produced things that we put right in front of them, and it's an exciting thing having people come together to say, all right, how do we fix it? See, there's not money, nobody's been investing money in this. To see this many millions of dollars invested now, people are paying attention and saying, oh, okay, how can we do it? So we're going to find ways all the time to be able to do that.
Why don't we take a break? When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about this transformation piece. Got some ideas. This is Josh Smith. He's pardoned. More in a moment. This is Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill, and my guest is Josh Smith. And we were just having a good laugh in the break. Imagine that. Imagine how far God has brought you, and now you are in the business of transformation, seeing people that are incarcerated. Somebody said something to me the other day. They were talking about how hard the work of personal transformation is, how hard it is. And I was saying that when you perceive value, you'll get dirty getting to the value. What I mean by this is, if we're digging for diamonds, or if we're digging for gold, or if we're mining for silver, we have no problem going into the darkest, dirtiest places to retrieve the valuable thing. You do that when you perceive value. There are some people who it's going to take a third or fourth try. You're going to have to get down in the dirt. You're going to have to go to the dark place, but you do it because you perceive value. And now when you look back at people that are incarcerated, you see past the dirt to the diamonds. Does that?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. I love your analogy with the diamonds, because I think as you were mining, I can imagine if you found a good one, it would make you go even deeper.
Right.
If you found another one,
Right.
it would make you keep digging. If people only got to see the diamonds that I've been able to mine over the years of people coming out of prison. I mean, I'm talking former gang members, former gang leaders.
Right.
Just today, I was just with somebody, a guy that did 31 years in prison and another guy that did about 12, just this morning, before coming here. Diamonds that have been mining and are still being cut and trimmed and being able to see life and to succeed. And so it keeps me digging. It keeps me digging for more
But do you realize that the thing that you are able to give to the world through your story is the ability to see the value and worth of human beings differently?
Absolutely. And that's the story that God's obviously given me. You take, if I would have had a little different past, maybe if I was a little cleaner, through school or whatever, but that wasn't the case. When people are able to hear my story, they're able to just go, wait a minute, what happened? And it does make them look at others differently. It makes them think, well, wait a minute. And when I go into prisons and there's staff and wardens and things, now when I walk in, generally they're meeting me at the front door, right? It makes them look and go, maybe we should look at the people that are in prison that we're guarding right now a little differently. It challenges their thinking to think, wait a minute, it's not us and them. It's that could be them one day. And so it is something you can see. You can see it in the eyes of others all across. business people to correctional leaders to politicians, and them to go, wow, we need to change the way that we look at how we're doing things in this society.
I mean, you literally are helping people, and it'll be generations, see possibility, right?
Absolutely.
Most of diamond mining is dirt and dirty. Most of it is. So if you did it on percentages, if you said, are we getting 100 diamonds today or 1,000 diamonds today, you're gonna get more dirt than diamonds. But every one of those diamonds is worth it. And I think that's the power of the gospel itself, is because it looks at us and says, you're worth it. You were worth the ultimate sacrifice. Not just to claim you, but to cut you and polish you and to watch you shine, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to commend you for letting God use you that way. And I thank you for being a hope-filled and a hopeful person.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you married the right person.
Amen. Well, just know there's so much going on. You're going to want me back in a few more years. I have no idea what it's going to be, but God continues to move in a big way, and I'm sure there's going to be an update before long on all kinds of other things.
Well, I want you to know, man to man, friend to friend, heart to heart, that I love you, Josh Smith.
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you, and I pray God's blessing over everything that's happening now and everything that is to come.
Feelings likewise. Yeah.
We'll see you next time on Anything is Possible.